Eric, welcome to the Last Date podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'm excited to have you because you are a two-step instructor here in Austin. Mm-hmm. And one thing I love to talk about is dating within our communities and the value of that.
Okay.
And you have a really unique perspective because you have this eagle eye view of what is going on in the dancing community as far as dating.
Yeah.
So the first question I have for you is, how does one date within their community?
I think with anything, it's like you want to treat it with care and caution, very clear communication, and be very, very honest about what your intentions are. So I think that's where most people run into some trouble. Like, it makes total sense to like date people that have similar interests in you and that you're showing up at the same places. But when you are maybe not being honest with yourself or honest with the partner, then I think that's where things get messy.
Have you seen things get messy
Absolutely.
in the dance community?
Have you been in the dance community? Yes, I think it gets very messy. And I think it's just people are, they get excited and enamored by like, there's a lot of beautiful people in this dance scene. So of course it's attracting other people. And I think whenever you are not doing something with intention and you're messy and you're not being aware of how you might be like even unintentionally hurting people, then it'll catch up to you. I always have a sit down like in every session. Doesn't matter if like you're a repeating customer, it's like, cool, what's been going on and how's things going, right? So it's an opportunity to connect. And so anyway, for a lot of the first timers, it's like, cool, why are you coming to me? Like, what are you hoping to learn? A lot of men are like, well, I went dancing, I saw a lot of cute women, and I want to date, you know? And so that's the only motivator, right? And so I think like if that's the only reason that you're doing that, I think it's going to be a rough experience for you, you know? Like I think, and also you are like missing out on so much that has to offer, like that community has to offer, right? Mm-hmm. And so I try to like, once again, no judgment, but it does tell me like you're in alignment with me or not, if like in this kind of like teachable moment where it's like, is that actually what so like I challenge them to go a little bit deeper, is like, is that what you're actually wanting, or you want it to be accepted and you wanting some community, right? Because like those are two totally different things.
Yeah.
Dating and having sex with somebody, like learning a skill just to get that, it's kind of manipulative, you know?
Yeah.
Or is it because you want to have some connection, right? And so I think that like, so that's like, oh no, of course. And I'm like, because if you're doing that, this is a small, tight-knit community and you're going to like, it's going to come back at you. So if you don't handle it with like intention and caution and care, you know, that it deserves. So I think, yeah. Well,
I was going to say like, it does come back at you because you can ask women in the dancing community, hey, which guy should I avoid? And they'll be like, right. that guy.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah. And so I think it becomes very clear. And so that is like temporary. You might be riding on a high for a little bit, but it'll come back. And so I think that
we're both thinking of the same dude.
And I think, no comment today.
So without naming names, are you able to give a story or two, or even like a scenario of what you see happens when it goes south?
I think I think that, this is pretty common it's kind of like a divorce and like who gets the venue, who gets White Horse versus who gets Sam's and at what days. I've actually had friends that have like, they've discussed this and then have like clear set, you get this, I get this day. So
wow.
Yeah. And and that's like, those are the good ones, you know, that actually have those boundaries around it. I think some of them are where it's just like, ooh, I dread seeing this person there, and then it's like, whose is this? Because I was dancing first, but then now I've built community in this. And so it's there's a lot of stories. And I think it's just, once again, not having clear communication, even from the very start.
So how do we avoid that messiness at the end? So you mentioned being honest and upfront about intentions. How do we practically go about having those conversations? Like, what do we say? Is there on the first date, hey, if this goes south, this is how we should handle it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's these are things that like everybody's hoping for the best, but not planning for the worst, right? And I think, hashtag trauma. Like you could build some skills with those, with having some experience with that. However, I think just like an actual true healthy way is like saying like, hey, it's like I've gone through every relationship that I've ever been in thinking this was going to be like long term and like, yes, I love this. Right. And so having, just like the reality of like, just in case, like we both love this, we both respect each other, like how should we handle this? So I think like those are scary topics to even discuss. And most people honestly aren't practiced with that or can't handle that. And I think that is part of the issue. Right. So, so some practical ways are just having that conversation of like, hey, like one, jealousy is going to come up. What happens? What do you need, or what are your triggers? Like I've actually had those conversations with my partner and really talking about like, what do you need in those scenarios? Do you need a little extra attention? Do we need to step outside? What are our intentions for that night? Like, so there's a lot of like really easy questions, simple questions. I think I might clarify that versus like easy. I think those are challenging questions when you're not prepared. But
so that's an interesting topic because so your girlfriend, and by the way, I've broken my own structure. Usually I have singles come on and you're in a relationship and I've broken it because I think you have this unique perspective and so I definitely wanted to have you on. But you and Meg, how long have you guys been together?
So 2.5 years.
2.5 years. So she dances with other men, you dance with other women. How do you guys navigate that?
So to clarify, I also dance with other men too. So I dance like it's my job to dance with everybody.
Right, that's true, right.
But I think like, you navigate that by like being honest about your intentions. Like for sure, I've been in previous relationships that maybe I was seeking validation, right? And so I wasn't like, they're just friends and that's all I want. And it's like, true, I didn't cross any boundaries. However, I think like maybe I had a blind spot and that like I was also seeking validation through this, right? And so I think having a better understanding of that, of what am I actually wanting or needing, then I can go seek that out and be intentional whether like, and so that's being really honest of like, do I want to be in a relationship? Do I like a committed relationship like this or do I not? Right. So I think, like we've had conversations around like, jealousy, it doesn't matter how secure you actually are. Like jealousy is a pretty normal feeling. And I think what happens is like in general is that you tend to like, you're attracted to your partner. Like what attracted you to your partner? Like beauty and they're kind and they're compassionate and all these things. And so like, other people are going to be attracted to those skills too. So like that same beauty and all those other things. So for other people to not notice those things and be attracted to, that's like ridiculous, right? Right. So like, of course, like you feel jealousy in those moments, but I think it's like how you react to that or what is it telling you? Like, and that could be something as like, maybe I didn't have enough time with my partner that week. And so somebody's dancing a little close or that person's really smiling. I'm like, oh, they're like trying to hit on my girlfriend or whatever, or vice versa, And I think that's where like that trust comes into play that like, actually like that's not what my partner is looking for, my partner or I are looking for. And if we were, then we'd have an honest conversation about that, right? Of like, hey, I've been having these feelings and these things are changing. This is what I'm needing, right? And so that's like a much more healthier version. But I've also been on the flip side of the unhealthy version,
Sure.
Where you're like, okay, well then I'm going to close myself off and be avoidant because of it, right? Like you don't get this piece of me or, and I think, so there's basically it's just like having those conversations and being like, okay, what do you need in those moments? And so like, how else am I going to know? Because like, I don't know, right?
Are you that open with each other where you'll say, hey, just to let you know, I was feeling a little jealous tonight?
For sure. That's been like, I'm very sensitive to energy around that stuff. And I'm like, I can just like sense it from like in the middle of it. It's like so intense. It's like so loud to me. And so it's like I've gotten much better. And luckily I have a partner that I can trust her to practice that with. Mm-hmm. But it used to be something of like, nope, it's like sealed in. It's like acting like it never even happened. I'm not bothered whatsoever. And eventually, like now I feel much more comfortable with like, we get in the car and we have some privacy and I'm like, hey, that was weird. I feel weird about this. Like, what's the deal, you know? Like,
yeah.
So I'm more of the fan of like just addressing it, you know?
I love that. So what about chemistry and attraction with other people that you dance with? Does that come up?
Yeah, definitely. We've had open conversations about that as well. I don't think it's like, once again, not this completely voluntary of like, hey, you just got home from a night of dancing and be like, guess what?
I was super attracted to this woman I was dancing with, and there was so much chemistry between us.
And honestly,
good night.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think that could be wonderful, and maybe that's something that to be that honest about would be like a great achievement, you know? But to be real with where I'm at, like, probably not. However, this is like just generally when we're doing some reflection or, you know, we've had check-ins before, or just like, I mean, my whole life is mostly dance, you know, like that's, so my conversations with friends and this kind of stuff tend to be around dance. And so those things come up. And so even with my girlfriend, like, yeah, it's just like, okay, well, have you felt attraction with other people? And it's hard to hear. It's like, oh,
yeah,
ooh, you did, like, you know, but the reality is, those things are also natural. And I think those can be fun, because once again, like it can be a form of validation. So it's like whether of like, are you going out for that intention to only receive that? Then like maybe there's some more internal work to do around that, right? Mm-hmm. But to not be like make you happy that somebody gives you a compliment or appreciates the skills or maybe characteristic traits that you have, like, yes, it feels lovely to be wanted, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's the part of like, yeah, like it makes me feel really good. And so like, why wouldn't I want my partner to also feel those things, right?
Yeah. And if you're dating someone of high value, someone that you respect and someone that you love, like you said, of course they're going to see right? The value there too. And other people are going to be attracted to your partner. Right. And you could look at that as a real plus, and that feels good that other people find my partner attractive because they are such a great person, right? And I think that it is unreasonable for us to assume that just because we're in a relationship that our natural human feelings will go away and we will all of a sudden no longer be attracted to other people.
Right.
We just can't shut that off. That's a natural thing. And the question is, well, what do we do with it?
Totally. Yeah. And I think that's exactly the point of like the kind of movie romance version is that like you're the love of my life and I see nobody else, and so I think that gets ridiculous. Like you don't notice that like that person's hot. Like I noticed that person's hot. Like, you know, so I think it's it's just like unrealistic.
So I've noticed that you personally have dated a lot of attractive women in the dancing over the years that I've known you. Mm-hmm. What's your secret?
It's actually the hair, man. Obviously, it's but these are clip-ons, so you can get them on my website. Like everybody, yeah. No, I think, there's like obviously, yes, it can be attractive to be a good dancer or to have like good style and have some awareness around that stuff. But really, it's like being kind, authentic, being vulnerable, all those things. And I think like I'm being genuine in any of those spaces. So I think you attract the people that you want to whenever you're just like, like highly rated skills. If you are kind, compassionate, empathetic, all those things. I think whenever you have this like one track mind, you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself to like, I have to go find my mate, right? I have to go find this person. And so once again, it can be quite exhausting to put that much pressure on like this, like when I go out to a white horse, I'm gonna meet, you know, the love of my life, you know? Yeah. Versus like, once again, showing up and being like consistent with that. Show up it's not going to happen like, cool, you show up once and then now like everything works out for you. It's like, continue to show up in that space multiple times, right? And I think like what that does is like you do create community, and whenever you have community, it grows your resources. So I think in the same ways of like, whenever you are solely saying that, like when I go dancing, for instance, if you're thinking that it's to meet hot chicks to hook up with, then you're objectifying women and you're like saying that their only value is that, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that once again, it's like at a loss for yourself to like develop some other skills and friendships that like, that there's like value in the getting to know somebody, and like, it's like, yeah, it's not sleazy in that way of like, cool. Then it's like, hey, I've actually really gotten to know this person. And like, I think you should meet my other friend because of this. Like those opportunities happen more organically whenever you show up without that like hardcore expectation that like, I'm just trying to like sleep with somebody, or like having the end goal of like, I need a partner, and you are otherwise invaluable. Like you're not, there's no value if you don't meet this criteria, right?
That's probably a question for Kaylee when she comes on the podcast is, can you guys sniff out those guys who are there for the wrong reasons? Like, is there an energy that they're bringing?
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see her. I would guess yes.
I would bet yes.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And to follow up on what you were saying about having platonic female relationships, that's such a benefit for men. I've met some amazing women who are close friends from the dance community. Yeah. And it's beneficial because you get to learn their perspective.
Yeah.
They tell you can go to them for dating advice or advice in general. And yeah, I think there are a lot of men who just bro out and all of their friends are bros. And it's like, if you don't have any sort of female perspective in your life, you are really behind the eight ball. Yeah.
And I think even that, like there's even room for like, cool, with your bros to challenge each other. Right. And so I think that's something that's like, yes, I love, it feels nice to be supported. But if I'm doing something wrong or shitty, I hope that somebody, my friend is like, hey, maybe you're not meaning to do this, so I'm going to check you right now, right? Mm-hmm. And those things hurt, right? Those things like, oof, like, but what I'm saying is like, that's kind of true care in those scenarios, like to not necessarily, I mean, obviously it could depend on the action or whatever, but having like, I think we all make mistakes where we hurt people, right? Intentionally or unintentionally. And I think that there's opportunity for redemption and accountability in that is like, you're not a horrible person by making some mistakes, but like truly understanding of like that pain that you created, right? That you caused, and like how to do better so that doesn't happen again, or that it's less intense or whatever that might be, right? So like there's room for that. And so, like that happens with some of my clients in terms of like maybe somebody might make a misogynistic, comment about like women when they're referring to follows or something like that. And it's like, once again, I can kind of take it into context of like, you don't mean that, but it's like kind of, it's an opportunity for gentle correction, right? To be like, hey, actually, I follow too. So it's like,
you did it at the beginning. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And so that's an example of like, it's not like you're horrible. So now so what you mean this, and like go down this, like, that's not actually. So sometimes, yes, people have to be challenged in that way because it is that extreme. Right. And other times it's like honest mistakes. And so it's like, once again, maybe it wasn't modeled. And so like for true growth, sometimes it has to be a little bit more patient. And I think women are exhausted of this, right? Of constantly making these corrections and doing these things. So men have to do this, right? And so once again, me having a platform for that, I try my best to like make sure that this is known. So it's like, hey, check in with your partner, do this thing. And so I think it's, once again, somebody that like, they respect me because like, I'm not judging them. However, I am going to challenge and correct them. And of course, if they're like shitheads, then I will be like, hey, you don't deserve my time and energy, because once again, I don't want this to be a superpower that is used to like hurt people. Right.
Good for you, man.
Yeah.
Why do women find dancing so attractive as a skill in men?
Let's see. That's a great question. I think there is something sexy about movement. You know, I think like I can't remember this reference, but there's been some like other like studies of like where they put sensory like monitors and put it in like this 3D model, and then like it's pretty interesting to even see that like from a skeletal standpoint of like how some movements are inherently perceived as more sexy than others.
Oh, interesting.
So the way somebody walks and the, you know, it's so I think I don't know, like there's something there from the caveman brain probably, right?
Yeah.
You know, like music in general and dancing to music is like familiar in a lot of like, you know, primary tribal stuff, you know, like cultures. And so I think that like, yeah, so maybe some of it is ingrained from some of that. I think from maybe a more developed scenario that's more modern, it might be that somebody's put some time and attention into a craft, right? And so that it kind of says like they're committed to learning, right? Because most of us, like, I mean, we all have natural abilities, right? But like, as an example, is like, dancing for me was not just like something like, yes, my parents were lovely dancers and were great. There's probably some of that was like inherently in my blood. And also, I struggled.
Yeah.
I struggled a lot.
Me too.
You know? So like it took time and effort. And so I think whenever people that also are intentional about learning and doing those things, they find that attractive, right? It's like somebody's putting the time to curate something, right? So I think that happens whether it's like somebody's good at cooking or some sort of art form or whatever. It's like, I think you can tell. I think you can tell when something's slapped together and when something's a little bit more intentional, right? So like, yeah, I'm down for somebody that spent some time and thought about the details and that kind of stuff. I think that's sexy.
I agree with you. I don't know if all men have had this thought or a significant portion of them, but I certainly did. I had this dream of like playing guitar around a campfire and like all these women just like like ogling me, right?
Yeah.
And I think with dancing, it's something that is so easy to present where like let's say you really are good at guitar,
right.
like you spend a lot of time,
right.
like how often do you have the opportunity to like break out a guitar and like show someone like, hey, I've developed this skill.
Right.
With dancing, it's very easy to do.
Yeah.
Literally just going out to a bar and you just show what you've learned.
Totally. Yeah. And if you show up with your guitar, then like
that's a double whammy, man.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, I actually think like, yeah. Which once again, I think maybe if you even asked, this is what's really quite funny, I think, about both dancing and music, and that as an example is like what we think and probably what women think is actually attractive is probably pretty cheesy, you know?
Sure.
So part of that is like, yeah, asking women and be like, is this actually attractive or not, right? But I do think that as an example in my lessons, that's something that we actually talk about. Which is like being quite flashy in the movements and that kind of stuff. And so there is this kind of perceived value that like, if you do all the moves and do all this stuff, then it actually like, yes, then people are going to want to dance with you or be sexually attracted to you. Right. And from a lot of the women that I'm in a circle with, like, it's actually like, it's how they make them feel. Do they feel safe? Do they feel like, are they paying attention? Is the partner like actually like listening to my movements and like engaging with that versus like get on my back, we're going for a ride, you know? It's a very different feeling. So yeah, I think like sometimes like that curation, that simplicity and just doing it very, very well and having detail to that shows like commitment to a craft, right? And that's where I'm saying like, it's the difference between slow roasting and like the hot flash, you know, like, yeah, I want the slow burn. Like,
yeah,
most things are better that way.
I think you nailed it. I think that when I've talked to women, they've said the same thing. They would prefer a guy, instead of doing all these flashy, crazy moves, they want a guy who's doing it really well. Yeah. And it could be just doing the basic two-step and maybe one turn.
Yeah.
versus the guy who's like spinning the girl all over the place and like, that looks cool and whatever. But the feeling that they get is one of safety, one of protection, one of a guy being present with them, one who's attuned to them. That is sexy.
Totally. Yeah. So that's like something that I've kind of been saying for the past, I don't know, couple of years. It was like the sexy is like the detail, the small things, right?
Yeah.
Because that, I don't think that there's like a fast way around it, right? It's like those are skill sets that you have to have to develop. It takes time to one, pay attention to your partner and be engaged in that way. Like that's much harder than me basically pushing play on a program sequence that I've learned, right? Like regardless of the outcome of is my follow hanging on for dear life or So having those the sexy thing is in that simplicity because it actually shows that you like the quality is so high there.
Can you give a couple of examples of that, of the details where a woman can tell right away that the quality of the dance
for sure
is there?
Yeah. One of them, a most common one, is like getting into what's called cuddle, which is like a side-by-side. It's like a very common move that we have in this two-step. And generally, like my partner's coming, their momentum is coming towards me, and they're supposed to like kind of be side by side, and you kind of like lock them in. And like 90% of the people out there, it's like there's a huge bump, just like boom, and it's hitting like hard, and like it's like buckling.
You're like hip checking them.
Yeah, giving your follow some whiplash. And I do something that's called a soft catch, and it's kind of like knowing that there's momentum coming at me, so I'm taking an extra step further to kind of like slow that momentum down. Like I refer to as an egg toss because egg toss is sexy, right?
That's super sexy.
And so it's taking a step back and noticing that there's momentum that actually needs to go a little bit further. So it's paying attention to the detail that like, that's a hard stop. So I actually there'd be a difference between slamming on the brake versus like easing into the brake to like a slow rolling stop, right? It's like very different feeling. So to pay attention to like, yes, that's going to like suck to get like, just stop them in place in the middle of that momentum to go from something to nothing at all, right? So to notice that like, that felt weird. And so like those things are things that I kind of developed through doing it probably poorly for a long time. And then, but having like, that didn't feel good. It didn't feel good to me. I noticed that it was a little bumpy. It probably didn't feel good for them. So what am I going to do about it? Well, let me like dig into this and see. And so that's like a prime example of something that's like when somebody has like a really soft catch in their cuddle, they're like, ooh, okay. They're like paying attention.
I took a private instruction one time and he was pointing out in the middle of the lesson, look at how large of the steps that you're taking and look at the tiny girl you're dancing with. She is having to like gallop while you are dancing. You need to tune in to your partner and figure out what are the steps that you should be taking for her. She shouldn't have to change everything that she's doing for you. And that was a major unlock for me where I was like, oh, I'm dancing with another person.
Right.
Like I need to figure out what they need.
Totally.
And I think that's a metaphor for relationships.
For sure. This is where like so many people joke around about me being a dating coach or a dance therapist of like, because it's like, ooh, life lessons of like, yes, this absolutely, what it is like, it's communication and it's body language, right? And so like, how are you clear about that communication? Do you even care? Are you even like paying attention to your partner? Like those things matter, right? And so I think like absolutely being aware, and even like outside of that partnership, it goes to community. I'm dancing with a ton of other people that are wanting to do the same stuff that I am, and maybe we don't have the space and we're actually sharing that, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, and I think that's incredibly like sexy. And like when somebody's like also like, yes, that they care about me, but they care about other people outside of me too, right?
Yeah, I'm sure you've experienced those dancers who get on the dance floor and they have zero awareness of anyone around them, and then they spin their partner out into other couples. Right. And I mean, as a leader, that's the worst thing you could do. It's like, crash collision course your partner into somebody.
Yeah. And so those things, and this is what I'm saying of like, look, those things are natural. Those things happen. Like, my form of communication in relationships and like friendships and all these things, dance like has been clumsy at times, right? So it's like that's naturally going to happen, but I think it's like this want and curiosity to like gain more awareness, right? To like be like, I'm starting to notice that isn't feeling good, and or that I keep bumping like, or you could go on your entire life like thinking like everybody else is the problem and so I think that shows like some growth and some like those are the people that I'm willing to be more patient with, you know?
I have told so many men to learn how to dance because it is a superpower.
Yeah.
And the number of men who take me up on that are slim to none.
Yeah.
In the slim category, like I'll bring a friend and to the White Horse or something, and I'll teach them the basic step. They'll do it one time. They feel the discomfort of feeling clumsy and not doing it well, and they never go back.
Yeah.
How did you overcome that clumsiness and the fear of failure and the apprehension of sucking, not by yourself, but with a woman in view of other women?
Right.
How did you overcome that?
Basically, I've been confident my entire life, and nothing, nothing phases me.
That's amazing.
Joke. This is no. I think it's like once again, it's just like being open. Like the want to be better exceeds the discomfort that I'm going to experience. It's like this titration of like those slight discomforts and knowing that it is going to get better. So if you are willing to learn, there's like plenty of other teachers in this city that we can teach you. There's opportunity, right? And so I think like you have to like basically be committed to like being vulnerable and open, right? So when I was first learning, it was quite a vulnerable space because like I actually didn't know how to dance. And so my brother was obviously like a wonderful dancer, great instructor. And so I had a date coming up. And so I'd asked him to dance, to teach me. So I had two lessons under my belt. So I had no clue what I was doing. So anyway, pretty early on, he invited me on this trip to Dallas or to Fort Worth. And him and some of the best, like his little dance crew, like some of the best dancers were going to go see this band, and everybody was paired up, and essentially somebody got stuck with me, right? So the band's starting. So one, I didn't know enough, and this was like a progressive style two-step, so very different than our style here in Austin. And so like I didn't know the movements and how to move and go and travel like that. And so anyway, my partner was quite unkind and very like literally out loud like was like, you're not doing it right, and like very firm with me, and like, and I'm like just trying to hold it together. I'm sweating profusely and just trying to like just Hail Mary, hopefully this like just works out. And just like, you're not doing it right, that's wrong. And so it was just like all this pressure. And basically, like, she left me on the dance floor. Brutal. And it was like, oh, so it was like my worst fear at that point in time did come true. Basically, it's like, I'm out of town. I'm at this bar. Like, I'm new to dancing. All my brother's friends, they're like having a great time. And then now I'm just like, this sucks. Like, I want to go home, you know?
Yeah.
So like legitimately, I just was like, I don't want to be here. If this is the way it's going to be, like, this sucks. So anyway, I kind of like sat off to the side. I kind of like recouped some, a little bit more of.
Did you dance later that night?
I did. So
that's impressive. How did you get back out there?
Yeah. So one, I think once again, it's like that commitment to like, hey, like yes, that was a failure, but like I stood by the sideline. I watched people. I tried to count their steps. I like started picking up a little bit more of what they were doing. And then I was like, all right, like, yeah, I'm tenacious. And so my will to like learn was like, yeah, I'm not going to let that, like, this is going to ruin my whole entire weekend. This is literally first, like, night one of this weekend trip. So it's like, I'm going to choose to do something different. So anyway, after watching and then kind of getting a little bit like, okay, I think I've figured out a pattern. Then I went to ask this other woman that was kind of talking to the group earlier. And so I went and asked her, and basically, like, she had her husband with her, and so we were talking, and it was like this old cowboy, just like old school dude, and he was so he was like, man, y'all are hell of dancers, and I was like, not me, it's like that's my brother and his crew, and he was like he's like, hell no, you don't play second fiddle to no one, you know. And I was like, yeah, that's right. That time on the sideline was actually really helpful for me to like gain a little bit more awareness, right? And so to like then like, okay, not so bad, right? And so there was like, I took some of the pressure off, and part of that was like, yeah, the quality of dancers that my brother and his crew was quite high, and so it was like, these are strangers, and so like these other strangers, like, I'm not worried about, they're not going to see me again anyway, right?
Yeah.
So after doing that, then it was like, it was quite funny because one of the people in the crew that really good friends with my brother was like, since I was dancing with just like everybody and doing like, I was having a great time after that. And she was like, oh, I thought your brother like knew all these people. Like it just seemed like, because he went off and started doing his own thing.
Oh,
I was like,
funny.
no, never met them in my entire life. This is the first time, you know? So yeah, I think that there's like, knowing that there's another way and that to turn things around. And so obviously that can be a bigger metaphor for life, and that like some of my darkest times, and whether that's dancing or any other part of my life, like they've generally turned around, right? So it's like you can. And so that takes like effort and awareness, and like then like seeking out that, right? Like it doesn't always just come naturally, and it's like, cool, I tried it once and it should either happen or not. Most things actually don't happen that way.
And courage. I mean, I think that story is such a great example of courage before confidence.
Yeah.
Courage is doing something that is scary.
Right.
You have fear, but you do it anyway. And so, man, like that is a scary situation to be in, particularly when this sucky girl is like, you're doing it wrong, and she walks off the dance floor like, that's not cool.
Yeah.
So to get back out there and do it again is very impressive. And that was one of the things I wanted to ask you, is how do you build confidence? And I think that story probably lends itself to that, which is that you put in the reps, you do the scary thing over and over again until you realize that you can handle situations. And that's what confidence is the belief that you can handle situations no matter what the outcome is going to be. Yeah.
Yeah. It's through these small incremental changes, right? And constantly showing up vulnerable and saying like, hey, I don't know enough, but this is where I'm at, right? So it's being aware of that and then seeking those opportunities out, right? And so I think like there's this there's like this perception of confidence, which is kind of the red pill dudes that are like blaming other people and see like, this doesn't faze me at all, right? Like, and the reality is like, whenever you actually internalize those things and being like, how am I affecting this thing? Or how am I, like that's actually where you learn. And like that so to me, like whether it's how you dance or how do you handle yourself, like it's like quiet confidence is the sexy thing, right? And so I think that's like, because like I'm not trying to be flashy to show and prove anything, that look how good of a dancer and look how good I am at my craft. The reality is like, if I'm not good, then people will notice, and I think people will talk about it, and I think it happens, right? So I think it's like you have to trust and be secure in that. And that comes through messing up a lot, right? And collecting those data points of like, like I am like such a logical person that's like, I talk about collecting data all the time. Yeah. And it's like, yes, you have to be courageous to go through this thing and mess up. And that is like a pretty hard thing, as like being a Virgo and a perfectionist, right? It's like, yeah, I've let that control a lot, and that holds me back a lot. So I think like the more that I can be open with like being vulnerable and messing up and saying like, it's okay, then I can learn and say like, oh, here's something that I can do that's maybe a little bit better. And so once again, not expecting that the change is going to happen right away. It's like over time. And so it gets easier. So with anything, putting in those reps, like you said, does make things a lot easier.
I think it's something a lot of people struggle with, is fear of failure.
Yeah.
And that is something I certainly struggled with for a long time and still struggle with to a certain extent. And to your point, you never get better unless you do the thing. Yeah. You fuck up, you learn from it, and you improve.
Yeah.
And we just stagnate in our lives if we don't do things.
Totally. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing, is like, now it's like, helpful to, so as an example of the way I teach is like, I want to be a safe person of like, you can fuck up. It's totally normal to fuck up. Like all good. You're like, there's no judgment of like, cool, but are you willing to listen and get better? Then great. Like no problem whatsoever. I have all the patience in the world for that. It's like when somebody is not curious or aware of themselves or how they're treating other people. That's the part that like, not interested,
Yes. Teachability.
Yeah.
I feel like there are a lot of men in particular in the dating and relationship space who are not teachable because teachability requires two things. One is an openness to learn and an openness to change.
Yeah.
And a lot of men, I don't know if it's a societal thing where we grow up thinking that we have to have all the answers, particularly in this area, but there's this ego that we have to know everything already.
Yeah.
And we don't.
Yeah.
And if you don't admit that to yourself,
right.
Or if we don't admit that to ourselves, then you're not going to improve. And so you're not going to do well in dating. You're not going to do well in relationships. It is absolutely a skill. We are not born with it.
Right.
And we need to learn. So if I could get on a soapbox for 2 seconds and just tell men, like, let down the ego for a second.
Totally. There's a reason why most of like who I hang out with is like mostly women. It's like, because I like have emotional intelligence and those are the ones that I have most, like we can share that vulnerability. Like great. With men, I think that's becoming like, I have more friendships like that now. However, like for such a long time, it's like, you're like, those are kind of superficial because it's like, once again, you're not willing to evaluate those things. And so the more that you can kind of like learn somebody else's perspective and kind of shift of like, how could I have done that differently? And so I think like those are the things that like, but you want to be perfect. Otherwise it seems like a character flaw. Right. And honestly, I think that's way more attractive whenever somebody is like, hey, actually like messed up and I'm sorry. I recognize that this is how I messed up and here's how I would like to do better. Like I'm working on this. Great. Then it shows some awareness and it's like, ooh, I can work with that. Right. Yeah. But I think like for us, it's like it's a weakness if we show that. Right. And so it's all a lie, and that's where I'm saying of like, there's this kind of sometimes vibrato that like, I know everything and I need to know that. And honestly, I think that's not true confidence. You're still functioning off of fear and masking. And for sure, I've been somebody that has masked for years and had that superficial thing because I wasn't willing to look at myself in those scenarios, right? Of like how like yes, I'm not a horrible human being, and also that like, did I make some mistakes and is there a way to improve? But if not, then I'm going to basically repeat that same pattern with the next partner and the next partner and the next partner. It's like nothing's ever going to change. It's going to fizzle out because like the input is the same, Exactly. And if we talk about sex for a second, I think that I hear from a lot of women that men don't know what they're doing. Yeah. And again, not a skill that we learn. Let me rephrase that. That is not something that we are born with. It is a skill we need to learn. Right. And so if we don't admit that we don't know what the fuck we're doing in the bedroom, then we're not going to get better at it. Right. And I don't think there are a lot of men out there who admit to themselves, I don't know what I'm doing. And then they go seek out a book or they do some research on what to do. I think a lot of men probably watch porn and then they're like, oh, that's what you do. And it's like, no, that is absolutely not how you please a woman. Right. Yeah. Men take note. Jackhammer is, you might think that that's like the power move. Like, yes, not the move, Right. I remember when I was 14 or 15 years old, my best friend in high school and I went to a Half Price Books and we bought a bunch of sex books, like how-to books, because we realized like, hey, we want to be good at this. Right. And like, let's learn. And, I think it's
probably easier when you're 15, 16 years old and you can admit to yourself, like, yeah, I'm, 15 years old. I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
But when you're 40 and you've never learned, it's probably a lot harder to admit to yourself, I don't know what I'm doing. Totally. But better admit it to yourself now.
For sure. Yeah.
than never.
Yeah, that's the thing is like you think that like with this mask, like that you're not going to be found out. Like 100% you're going to be found out. So might as well be vulnerable about the thing. And like, yeah, there's tons of resources for it now. And so I remember the same thing in high school of like, I don't know. I don't remember like, but it's like one of a women's magazine that I saw and I'm like, ooh, yeah. I'm like, how to pleasure your woman. I'm like, okay, cool. Yes.
Cosmopolitan's top 10.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, okay, give them the look and then look away and then go and spark up the conversation. And then it had more like, for sure, more sexually explicit stuff. And so, but that's the thing. It's like, yes, like being willing to learn and, this is just something through like other relationships and through dating is like, yes, like you learn by asking questions instead of me thinking like, let me put on this show and see, like, did you like, hopefully you like that, It's like you could have like,
ta-da!
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, maybe some of those things could be, pleasurable, but the reality is like, everybody has different preferences. So the reality is like how I communicate with that person. So it does help, once again, having some skills of listening and like for me, like having that sensitivity to body awareness and this kind of stuff and knowing and seeing it like, okay, cool. They're reacting in this way, right? So then there's also some clarifying like, did you like this? Like, do you like this? Do you want me to keep going? Anything you want me to change? Those are like very practical things that seem just so like unheard of for a lot of people. But those are like very practical skill sets to like just questions to ask that it's like, are you enjoying this? Is there anything you want me to change? And the reality is like most of those people will absolutely speak up and say, actually keep going, or actually I like this instead. And so for sure there's like a feeling sometimes that during that has happened to where it's like, ooh, I thought they were like really enjoying this piece of it, right?
Yeah.
And so you could go down a hole and be like, this killed the mood. Or you could be like, ooh, it turns me on to turn my partner on, right? So therefore, like, yes, it's in our best interest for both of us to like make sure that we're communicating. It's like, it's much hotter that way.
Yeah. And something you said reminded me of dancing, which is that attunement to your partner.
Right.
It's, I'm not going to take these big steps and you have to catch up. I'm going to like see like, oh, like this is how you like it.
Right.
We're in this together. I'm going to attune to you.
Yeah.
And you're going to attune to me. It's a dance.
Right. Yeah. And so I think that's why, to the earlier question of why that might be attractive, dance might be attractive to other women, because like it's the same skill set. It's the same things of like movement and pain, like the attunement to how are they reacting to this in my body.
Good point. So on our call, you mentioned that people tend to know who you are very quickly. Yeah. What did you mean by that?
Well, I think I practice being very genuine all the time. It's like a skill that, once again, it's like being vulnerable. So it's like showing up with vulnerability no matter like what space I'm in. Obviously, like there's still times that I don't feel confident or secure, but the more often that I show up like that, then it's basically either going to attract the people that I want, or it's going to like discourage or even like to like repulse people whenever I am truly who I am, right? When I have this mask on, I'm showing up as like a watered down version of myself that's going to kind of like, I want everybody to like me. And like, obviously, like, yes, that's like a story for all of us, right? It's like we want to be loved and accepted, right? So, but when you're showing that watered down version of yourself, then like, how can somebody actually see that and like really know? So the more that you show up and are goofy and silly, like that's like, so, I mean, even that's happened with, as an example, like my branding with my dance stuff. There was this need to prove myself that like, see, like I am worth what I am charging for this, because like I I produce great dancers. Like that's what I do, and confidence and all these other things. Right. And so there was like a challenge to prove that to myself. So my branding wanted to be like, I want everything to be super highly polished and like all the time. Right. And so I think that's a bit of a mask and not like it was missing out on this kind of true self, which is like funny and playful and all these other things. And maybe like it attracted, you know, some of the crowd that I wanted to, cause like I'm able to make a living off of it. And maybe I basically discouraged other people that like needed some maybe gentleness and being like, oh, some openness to like, I'm scared of this right now. Can you help me? Right. So maybe it was like too intimidating for that. Right. And so now that I am a little bit more, I mean, like, so like I said, the branding, it was like quality and this kind of stuff. And I'm like, this actually isn't me in that way. Like, it's like I want to be more playful and funny, and that's where like I'll be your dance daddy and like stuff kind of and it kind of resonated because I think it was like me being my authentic self. It was like that's the way I talk with my friends. This is like it's not just this buttoned up version of like I am going to be one of the best dance instructors in this city. Like, yes, I'm always striving for that, and also like I don't take myself too seriously. Like, be playful and be like approachable, right? So the more that I can like be true to myself, then it absolutely is going to attract the right people, and the people that are like, ugh, like repulsed by that, great. They weren't for me anyway, you know?
I think you nailed the crux of attraction, which is authenticity. And it is polarizing people. I'm going to show up as my true self, and it's going to be really attractive to some people, and it's going to turn off other people, and I don't care.
And that's a hard thing to like, once again, whenever you're like wanting to be liked by everybody, and like, but once again, it's like, that's the trade-off. The trade-off is like, cool, then you're going to maybe get something a little bit more superficial versus depth of somebody. It's like, I resonate so deeply with what you're saying. Great, let's develop that even more, right? Versus like if we're pretending, or this is like going back to the earlier conversation around maybe not being truthful about your feelings or being as honest, like that's like you're missing out on this whole big opportunity around growth and development in those skill sets, whatever that may, whether that's dating, dancing, or anything else.
Yeah, well said. Since you're into data, I read this book called Dataclysm, and it was the guy who came up with OkCupid. He was the founder of OkCupid. And so we had like, I don't know, a couple decades of data or something like that. Anyway, he had this this example where if you were to grade someone on a scale from 1 to 5 in terms of attractiveness, if someone were a 3, you could look at a 3 in 2 different ways. You can be a 3 where the vast majority of people will peg you as a 3. Or you could be a 3 where a portion of people peg you as a 5 and a portion of people peg you as a 1 that averages to a 3. The ones who go that route, the ones who are polarizing, are the ones who get more matches, because to have people be like, whoa, that person's a 5.
For sure.
Like, and he was like, it could be something small like a picture with like a blue streak in their hair. And like that is really attractive to someone who's going to be like, oh, that's a 5. Like, that's exactly my type. And that's a 1 to someone else who might be a little bit more buttoned up. They're like, no. Like, I would never date someone like that. But you want to be that polarizing person. Like, you want to be rated a 5 by some people. You don't want to be a 3 across the board. That's super diluted. All right. What is something that you've learned about dating or relationships that you wish you knew from the very beginning?
Vulnerability and not having the answer all the time, but being willing to be open and discover those things about yourself, and learning how to communicate that without basically feeling so much shame and that like now I'm a horrible person, or like that it's like a character flaw in those ways. I think like there was this performance early on for so many years that's like, I have to be perfect. And so I have a lot of different skill sets of like, I'm a great cook and I'm great at different sports. I used to be a musician. There's all kinds of things that like I've done really well. And then kind of like through therapy and like having a deeper understanding is like, those were all like masks, so I can like step into any room and feel confident that I can connect with anybody on anything, right? But that's like exhausting. It's exhausting. And so part of that deeper thing was because it was trying to create opportunity coming from like maybe not so much money and having to earn my way through these things of like opportunity mattered, right? So how I presented myself was really important. So that led to like, oh, you know what? Like, hey, you want this job, or here's the thing, you should connect with like Eric and that kind of. So it was for like a survival mode, but the reality is like it didn't serve me long term. It was just like it was never, so it was never allowed me to like. It's like high performing, but maybe actually not showing up in as my true self, and even saying that like. To be even asked or like be vulnerable that like I wanted something different, right? So because then that might make me look bad or that kind of deal. And unfortunately, I think I unintentionally hurt a lot of women in the earlier stages of my dating experience, right? That like, not because it was intentional, but it was like I wasn't as clear about what I wanted, or even that I was uncertain about that. So even that to be like, hey, I'm not sure, right? And so I think that's like something to be accountable for, and to be like, I wish I would have known. I wish I would have done better. And unfortunately, whenever you don't have it modeled, not that it's an excuse, but that is a reason for a lot of people. And so I love that this is like an opportunity to share those things, right? Because like, yes, let me be the model for that now, because like that's my experience, right? Yeah. And so like more people, more men need to understand these things versus like hiding away and being like, okay, cool. Like then nothing gets resolved, and you're, regardless if you're a good dude, you know, you're like unintentionally creating harm, which is harmful and not cool, you know?
Yeah. A lot of times there's this advice in the dating world, which is just be yourself. And authenticity, yes, is the thing.
Right.
And if you're just like a stoner, like only focused on themselves, don't care about other people, kind of bumbling along without any sort of direction, you can show up as your true self, or you could show up as like that version of yourself, right? And it's not going to go well for you, right? So I think that there's also holding up a mirror to yourself. You're really honest, like, I'm not happy with this version of myself. I want to grow.
Right.
And there is a way to do both things, where you can be the authentic best version of yourself. And even in moments where you're growing, we can tell ourselves, or we can show up as like, hey, I know I'm growing. Like I'm not perfect. I'm going to be the best version that I can be right now, knowing that this is what I'm shooting for. At all times being authentic. Right. And so I think that some people may think, well, okay, I'm just going to be my true self. It's like, yeah, that's not enough. You gotta actualize on your potential. As well.
And please, yes, be your authentic dickhead self. If that's who you are, please, like, show everybody, right? But the reality is like, yes, like that's not gonna go very far. And so I think like, once again, there's nuance between all these things, right?
Yeah.
And so understanding that it's like, yes, you can want different things, and that doesn't inherently make you a dickhead, but not being empathetic, compassionate, kind, communicative, all those things. Yes, those are dickhead qualities, right? So work on them, right?
Yeah.
And part of that is like, that's actually what gets you a lot further.
Well, cool, man. Well, thank you so much for being on the pod and for giving your insight.
Yeah, of course. That was fun, man. Thanks.